Today's passage is Genesis chapter 22. Very famous passage. And the title of our message today is A God Who is Valuable. A God who is valuable. And the question that we need to ask ourselves, myself, is this. Is God valuable to you? How valuable is God in your life? Some people, all of us, we value certain things. Some would be less valuable to us, and some would be more valuable to us. That's true with friendships. We have some friends that we consider valuable, and we have some friends that we consider not so valuable. People, what they value is different. Some people gives high value on material stuff. Probably a painting, a jewelry, a car, a house, a building, a mansion. To them, that's valuable. They take care of it. They ensure that their paintings are insured. Their properties are insured. Why? Because it's valuable to them. Some people, what's valuable to them are sentimental things. In my case, one of my most valuable things is this watch I'm wearing. And this, I don't normally wear watches anymore, but my sister was telling me, wear Dad's watch. And I started wearing watches again. And this watch is valuable simply because it's the watch of my dad. And it's the watch that my dad was using when he died. So whenever there's an important meeting that I have to go, before when I was not using watch, I would wear that watch. Nothing, just because it's very valuable to me and very sentimental. As I said, if this watch gets lost, the value of it is not the price. I can buy another watch, a similar watch, but that's not the point. This watch is valuable simply because it's my dad's watch. It's the very watch that he was wearing when he died. Some people, what's valuable to them is their job. They want to be promoted. That's what's valuable to them. And they would invest their life, their time, even for some people, at the expense of their family. Because they want to live up to the position. They want to be promoted. They want to be recognized. Because what? That is what's valuable to them. And they're willing to make sacrifices. They're willing to give up things. Why? Because of that value. For a job, for a company, it's the same. Sleepless nights, burning the candles at night, in order to make your company bigger. For some people, it's love. They value love. Especially yung mga nagliligawan. That's why people, they kill. Yung love triangle. Oh, they value the affection and the affirmation and the love of another person, that they're willing to kill another person. Just to have that love exclusive to them. And the reason why people gives value to certain things differs. It could be for security purpose. It could be for feeling that they would feel better, for affirmation. But it's one thing to say that you value something, and it's a totally different thing what is really valuable to you. Because sometimes we deceive ourselves, we deceive people into thinking that they're valuable, but in reality, no, they're not valuable. What's valuable is their assets. The classic gold diggers, right? They fall in love with an old man that's ready to die. I remember there's this guy, saw this girl and said, you know what? Marry me. Why? Because my dad is very rich and is about to die, and I'll get everything. The girl was smart. She married the dad. And the dad died, and she got the money, right? So some people, they serve other people. They're nice to other people. They let that other person feel that they're valuable. But in reality, what that guy or that girl is after is their money. It's deceiving. Sometimes we deceive other people, we deceive ourselves. But deep inside, what we say is valuable and what we really deem to be valuable might be different. Genesis chapter 2 is all about, is God valuable to you? Is He? How valuable is God to you? The Jews calls this chapter the Akedah, the binding, because Abraham bound Isaac. But really, the heart of the question is that, is God valuable to you today? Or is He just one of those major things in life that we have to attend to ease our conscience, to make us righteous, to make us feel good? Because we don't want to be branded by our families and friends or even ourselves to be an unrighteous person. But really, when push comes to shove, is God valuable to you? And why do you really serve Him? What motivates you from serving Him? Genesis chapter 22 verse 1 says, and it came about after these things. Meaning what? After Genesis chapter 21, after 25 years of waiting for the promised child, after the birth of the promised child, after the fact that there was a big party that Abraham gave, after the winning period, and there they saw Ishmael sporting, and Sarah told Abraham to take out Hagar and Ishmael. After these things, after the treaty that Abraham had with Abimelech, wherein God said, wherein Abraham said, I have an everlasting God who has secured me a well. Therefore, this land is now livable. After all these things, what happened? God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham, and he said, here I am. It was God who tested Abraham, because God tests His saints. And when God tests us, He wants to check the quality of our faith, the quality of our obedience. He wants to check why you do what you do. What motivates you? Go to Deuteronomy chapter 8, please. Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 2. Deuteronomy chapter 8 verse 2 says, you shall remember all the ways which the Lord your God has led you into the wilderness this 40 years, that He might humble you, testing you to know what was in your heart, whether you would keep His commandments or not. God tests us to show what is really in our hearts, to reveal. It's meant to reveal. It's meant to expose not our knowledge, but our motives, our love, our obedience. Because it's one thing to say, I have faith in God. It's one thing to say, I will obey God. It's another thing to obeying God. Obedience is easier said than done. 2 Chronicles chapter 32-31 says, even in matters of the envoys of the rulers of Babylon, who sent to him to inquire the wonders that had happened in the land, God left him alone to test him, that he may know all that was in his heart. God was there to test him. What? To know what is really in your heart. When God tests you, it's there for Him to reveal to you what's really in your heart. Do you really love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and strength? Do you really care for Him? Are you really concerned? Do you really trust Him? Do you really believe in Him that He's the Almighty God? Let's test it. Let's see. It's like saying, Dad, I master math already. Really? Let's test it. And he fails. Or she fails. The test did not make the person a failure. The test only revealed that he does not know math. The testing is meant to reveal what is in our hearts. It's not meant for us to fail. It's meant for us to reveal. Because the heart is deceitful about all else, the Bible says. So what's the best test? Oral? No. Practical. That's the real test. When push comes to shove, will you pass the test? Will you trust Him? The test of God is not meant for us to entice us to do wrong. It is meant to check the value, the quality, and the attributes of our faith by stretching it, by pulling it in opposite direction, to know if our faith, to know the quality of our faith and faithfulness. There's no other way for you to genuinely know. Because as I said, you can deceive yourself in thinking that you are faithful when you are not. Because when push comes to shove, when all your hopes, when all your dreams, when all your aspiration is in line, what would you choose? Would you still choose God? Or will you just forgo God? And when Genesis chapter 22 verse 1 says, and God tested Abraham, He's now forewarning the audience. Something's about to happen. Something's about to happen that will stretch the faith of Abraham. We will now see what type of faith this man has. Will he be willing to give all in all to God? Or does he simply obey God simply because of the benefit he gets from God? Remember what Satan said to God about Job? Does Job obey God for naught? That was the argument. You know, God, Job only obeys you because you blessed him. Because you have protected him. He's only obedient to you because you are blessing him. You are protecting him. You are taking care of him. Take out the blessings. Take out the business. Take out the work. Take out the wealth. Watch. He will curse you. The testing is to show what is really in our hearts. Do we follow God because of the promises He makes? Or do we follow God simply because He is God? That's a question that we all must grapple with. The good thing there is, God said, I will not put you in a situation that you cannot handle. And if there is, I will provide a way of escape. The mere fact that a test is on your way means you're worthy of taking the test. Honestly, He thinks you can pass. And He'll enable you to pass. If you're willing to love Him. It's meant to reveal the motivation. All tests is meant to reveal our motivation in obeying God. Is it God Himself? Or is it the benefits, the perceived benefits that we get? Exactly the same challenge with the rich young ruler. Because during the time, wealth is perceived to be blessings from God. And Jesus said to the rich young ruler, give away all of that. Lord, I will follow you, right? I will follow you. I've obeyed all the commandments. And without saying, and you have blessed me, that's why I'm rich. Remember I told you, during that time, if you're rich, you must be good. That's why God is blessing you. And if you're poor, you must be bad. That's why God is cursing you. That's why Jesus said, really? You really want to follow me? Do you want to follow me because I provided for you? Or do you want to follow me because I'm God? Okay, let's check. Give up all your wealth. What did the rich young ruler do? He left. Oh no. Sabi ko nga God has been a means to an end. The end is not God. The end is the gifts of God. That's wrong. The end is God. But now again, I keep on saying, a lot of people use God as a means to an end. Lord, I'll serve you. Just make me wealthy, please. Lord, I'll serve you. Just give me the love of my life, please. Lord, I'll serve you. Just give me security and peace in my life. But take away the security. Take away the peace. Take away the wealth. Will you serve Him? If there is no material benefit for you, will you serve Him? Because God will not hesitate to push us out of our comfort zone. So do not be surprised if God does not give in every of your whims and desires and your perceived needs and expectations in life. Don't be surprised. Because that's not the point of life, right? Life is more than eating, drinking, and being merry. The testing of God helps us to realize and recognize and reveal what is paramount in our relationship with God. Is it God Himself? Or is the benefits that He gives that is paramount to you? Really? Is it God Himself? Or the benefits that we want to have from that relationship? That's why a lot of people likes to hang out with rich people. Why? They want the benefits. Baka may negosyo, baka may ganun, baka may ganun. It's the benefits. And we act the same with God. We want the benefits. We don't say it. But we do want that. Para ka pa nagsakripisyo sa'yo. Para ka hindi mo pala pagmamanahan. Wala lang. Right? Verse 2, it says, by the way, when when Abraham said, "Here I am," the word there is, "Here I am ready," expectantly. Verse 2 said, he said, "Take now your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains which I will test you." You know, when all the troubles seems to go away, when there was stability already in the house of Abraham, that there is no family fighting anymore because Ishmael is gone, that the promised child is here at last after 25 years, that the land is secure because of the water, the rights to the well has been agreed upon, comes another obstacle. Another obstacle. Back to square one. I think it's important for us to realize something. What is normal? If I ask you, what is a normal life? You know, if I work in Ortigas, which I don't, right? But if ever I work in Ortigas, it would probably take me normally 2 hours to go to work, maybe. That's normal. What is ideal? Today, Sunday, after worship, if I go to Ortigas, probably it'll take me what? 40 minutes? Ideal. But there's a difference between what's ideal and what is normal. If you base your life on what is ideal, you will just be frustrated. You will just be downcast. Ano ba to? Laging traffic, laging traffic, laging traffic. Hindi siya ideal, hindi siya ideal. You should not base things on what is ideal. We have to base things on what is normal. The question is this: what is a normal Christian life? Is a normal Christian life mean there's no problems? That everything is a monorail? That everything is smooth and dandy? Or is the normal Christian life a roller coaster ride? A lot of ups and downs. Because if you think that the normal Christian life is the ideal life without problems, whenever problems comes, you'll be disappointed with God. God, another problem ba to? Hindi na matigil-tigil ang problema ko sa buhay. Mamamatay na ako, may problema pa rin. Since grade 1, may problema na ako. Now, may problema pa rin. But you cannot live an ideal life in a fallen world. This is a fallen world. We don't expect that. Don't expect a bed of roses. Sabi ko nga, expect a bed of nails. Because this is a fallen world, and praise God, this is not our final destination. This is just a pit stop. A momentary pit stop. How momentary? Very momentary compared to eternity. And a lot of people feels upset with God because they're expecting an ideal life without problems, without pressures. They're expecting heaven and earth. No. This is earth. This is not heaven. So some people, they take a roller coaster ride with much joy and acceleration, and some people are frightened, right? They're afraid. Some people are afraid of roller coasters. They're afraid that they'll die. They're afraid that the roller coaster will get out of the rail. But some people, they enjoy the ride, knowing that they're secure. Knowing no matter if it goes up or down or twist or makes a loop, guess what? It's all under control. And that's the Christian life. We have to be secure in knowing everything is under control. Yes, there'll be ups and downs. Yes, there'll be twists and turns. But the roller coaster will not get out of its track. Because God is firmly in control, hugging you and protecting you throughout the whole process. God does not promise a smooth ride. He just promises a safe landing. He promises to be with us throughout that ride. So when Abraham said, "Here I am, Hineni," it means here I am, I'm ready, I'm alert, I'm receptive to your instruction. And God said, since you're ready to obey me, now take your son. That's it. Kasi sa English, it does not show that eh. Yung Hineni. Yung I'm ready. Here I am. But on Hebrew, that's how it comes across. Since you're ready to obey me, take now your son. Ooh. What about my son? Your only son. It matches. My son, my only son, whom you love. Isaac. Wow. That just increases the tension of the narrative. That just exemplifies the situation. In Isaac, you must realize all the hopes, all the love, all the aspiration of the promises of God resides in him. By all intents and purpose, in the mind of Abraham, he's the only son now. Everything is riding in Isaac. And God says what? Sacrifice him to me. How heavy is that? I realize something. Genuine faith demands radical obedience. It might be illogical, yes. It might sound absurd, yes. It might be unconventional, yes. But that is the nature of a biblical faith. Biblical faith is not logical. It's not conventional. It makes no sense. The only sense that biblical faith has is this: I trust God that what He's telling me to do is best. I don't need empirical data to back up my decision. I just need the Word of God to back up my decision. He commanded it, therefore I will do it. Irrespective of the outcome. Irrespective if it makes sense. Take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and give him as a burnt offering. You know what's a burnt offering? A burnt offering means you have to, as you know, kill the animal. After killing the animal, and you know, Abraham was familiar with this. It was not the first time. This is a common thing. you have to kill the animal. So Abraham in his mind is, okay, I have to kill my son. Next, you have to chop him off into pieces. Because burnt offering, after killing it, you have to chop it off in pieces, then burn it. To kill your son is heavy, if not impossible. Now that your son is dead, you have to chop him into pieces. By the way, this is kind of outrageous, right? But during their time, it's not that uncommon. Diba? If you think of it, you always hear a child sacrifice. At that time, there's a god named El. He's the god of fertility, and he demands that the first will be given to him, the first grain, the first animal, and the first child in some cases. That's why, even other religions, there's child offering. And the god El was the god of fertility. And when you give the first, it is meant to ensure future fertility. God El, I give you this first as a guarantee that you will continue to make this land fertile and give us more harvest. So it was not uncommon. The command of God was not uncommon, honestly. To us, it's outrageous, but to them, it's happening. It's being practiced. Go to 2 Kings, please. 2 Kings chapter 3, verse 27. And it says, Then he took his oldest son, who was to reign in his place, and offered him as a burnt offering on the wall. So yan sa Bible, may mga gumagawa eh. All there came great wrath against Israel, and they departed from him and returned to his own land. Jump to chapter 17, verse 17. Another example. Then they made their sons and daughters pass through fire, and practiced divination and enchantment, and sold themselves to the devil in the sight of the Lord, provoking him. What am I saying? It's being practiced during that time. That's why in Deuteronomy and Leviticus, it was prohibited for them to offer their children. That means what? It was implied. It was being done by some people at that time. It goes without saying that even if it's common practice, it's still painful. It's almost like, and this doesn't give justice, I'm told to break the arm of my daughter, knowing the fact that it will heal. Oh, Iha, come here. I'll break it. If I snap it, man, it doesn't lessen the pain, right? Knowing that it will heal. Knowing that other people does it does not lessen the pain of the command of God to Abraham. In Isaac, all the hopes, all the aspiration, all the love of Abraham was immortalized and represented by Isaac. And God is saying, give that up to me. Offer him as a sacrifice. Verse 3, Genesis chapter 22. So Abraham rose early in the morning and saddled his donkey and took two of his young men with him and Isaac his son. And he split woods for the burnt offering and rose and went to the place on which God told him. Early in the morning, without delay. Oh, does it mean that it was easy for Abraham? That he was eagerly ready to send off and put to death his son? I don't think so. Far from it. But the mere fact that the author tries to give a lot of details, it's meant to exemplify and magnify the importance and the difficulty of the task. He could have said, he told Abraham, and Abraham went and offered Isaac. No. The author slowed down the pace of the narration and starts giving the details to exemplify, to heighten the tension of the situation. Rather than saying that Abraham went, no. Abraham saddled, he called, he did this, he did that. He was giving the details because it was a momentous event. Again, I remember my dad. I remember the night, as I would call it, the night before he died. And I say that it was the night before he died because it meant that it was the night before his day of operation. At that time, my dad was diagnosed with an aneurysm of the aorta. And at that time, the survival rate, if I'm not mistaken, was 10%. So if my dad gets operated, 90%, he will die. So the night that he was about to be brought to the hospital, I was with him in the room. He had a rocking chair in his room. I remember he stood up. I remember him taking out his wallet, him hiding it in his drawer. I remember all the details, which I normally don't take notice. But that moment was slow motion because I was telling myself, man, this would be the last time. As my dad stepped out of his room, that would be the last time he'll be stepping out of his room. The time he took off his wallet and placed it on his side table, that was the last time. My senses was so amplified because of the importance of what was going on. Every detail was being etched in my brain. Same here. Every detail was being placed here to amplify what was going on. But you know what? Something interesting was happening as they were giving the details of this. It said here, right? He saddled the donkey, took his two young men, and gave it to Isaac, split the woods, and for the burnt offering. People were saying this. Two major scholars, commentators were saying this. The order was wrong. He should have cut the wood, then saddled the donkey. But here, he saddled the donkey, then later cut the wood. And what were they saying? He was distraught. He was like going through the motions. Because I can imagine the mental agony of trying to obey. And you going through the motion and not doing it properly. Why? Because you are disconnected. You are distraught. You are under great duress. Because of the commandment, but yet you wanted to obey. And you were just going through the motion, not necessarily orderly, because you were not really thinking that straight. You were kind of numb. The commandment numbed your thinking. And you are almost like in a trance, trying to just go through the motion. That's why the order of things was not precise, not in order. Verse 4 says, on the third day, Abraham raised his eyes and saw the place from the distance. On the third day. How painful is that? You ask yourself, when God told Abraham to sacrifice Isaac, why not at the back of the tent? Why is there a need to travel 3 days? Why not just 1 day? In fact, why not just there? At the corner? Or just over the hill, somewhere there? But that 3 days was important. But you know what? That was a mental torture for Abraham. Well, for me it will. People say that Isaac was about 10 years old. Mickey, how old are you? 8. How old are you? 11. 10. Somewhere there. And that 3 days, I can imagine chit-chatting. Abraham talking to Isaac. Oh, anak, how are you? Oh, how's things? How's school? Oh, yeah, low grades today. Whatever talk they would talk for 3 days. That's painful. But that will ensure that the action of Abraham in sacrificing Isaac was not a knee-jerk. Naitulak lang, nabigla lang ako. I was just forced into it. No. For 3 days, he had to live with the haunting reality that he has to kill his son. The word to slaughter. For 3 days, he has to live and grapple with the confusion in his mind, knowing that all his dreams, aspirations, and hope will be put to death. He's a father. Take your son, your only son, whom you love. Kahit nga salbahing anak, it will be difficult to kill him. But a son that whom you love. Abraham had all the time to think about it. Had all the time to back out. He had 3 days to rationalize himself on how he could justify his withdrawal. So the act of Abraham was not a rash decision. It required resolute faith. After sober reflection, his faith and resolve was not weakened. Because it would have been much easier for Abraham to slaughter his child immediately. It would, Marcus has this saying, if you're gonna hurt somebody, make it fast and swift. If you wanna torture somebody, make it slow and low. It's like, get a knife, chop it off, or get a saw and slowly slice this. Okay, chop it off na. One swift, done, over and done. Here, 3 days. I can imagine the nights when Isaac is asleep and Abraham is looking at the child while they're asleep and maybe crying. But he carried on. Verse 5. Once they reached there, Abraham said to his young men, "Stay here with the donkey. I and the lad will go over there, and we will worship and return to you." For some reason, I feel this by this point, Abraham has detached himself to a certain level with Isaac. He refers to Isaac as the lad. Not anymore my son. To ease the pain. is now just an object. It's just the land. Because in his heart, I'm about to slaughter him. Mentally, he has given up already Isaac to God. He's no longer his son, he's just now a lad. Such is the journey of our faith. It's a psychological thing to prove again, is God valuable to you? Is he the most precious thing in your life? Or do you have another idol? Now, people, commentators are grappling, and there's no sure answer why Abraham, we shall return. Diba? Sinabi yan, we shall worship and we shall return. Is he showing faith? People say maybe. Or is he just smoke screening it? Because imagine if they said, okay, I'm going to now take my son and slaughter him. Maybe the two servants will, no, sir, don't. So people are not sure what that meant. So I leave it as that. He just said it. Verse 6. Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it to Isaac his son, and he took in his hands the fire and knife. So the two of them walked on together. Now, the anticipation of the moment of the sacrifice itself is building up. Verse 7. Isaac spoke to Abraham his father and said, "My father." And he said, "Here I am, my son." And he said, "Behold, the fire, the wood. But where's the lamb for the burnt offering?" Isaac breaks the silence. And Abraham replied, "God will provide for himself the lamb for the burnt offering, my son." So the two of them walked together. Verse 9. Then they came to the place of which God had told him, and Abraham built the altar there, and arranged the wood, and bound his son Isaac, and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. Remember, Abraham was not there by his own liking. He was there because he was commanded by God. And all of this narration just strengthens the tension as Abraham awaits to slaughter Isaac. The altar is built. The wood was laid. Yet, there's no lamb in sight. And yet, Abraham now slowly binds his child, Isaac. By now, Isaac must have a strong feeling, I'll be sacrificed by now. He sees the altar, he sees the burnt wood, he's now being tied, and now he's placed on the altar. Oh no, I'm the lucky one today. He could have resisted, he could have run. He's 10 years old. Abraham, 110. Verse 10. Abraham stretched out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. You know, I was asking myself, what's running through the mind of Abraham? If I was in his shoes, probably I was still waiting. Lord, where's the ram? Where's the lamb that will substitute? I think until the very last minute, he was probably hoping that there will be really a substitute, as he told his son that God would provide a lamb, a ram. But there was no ram in sight. And he's now about to slaughter his only son, whom he loved, Isaac. But the angel of the Lord called to him from the heavens and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here I am. For all intents and purposes, Abraham was dead set to kill Isaac. He was resolved. When there was no lamb in sight, he was hoping for a lamb. But when there was no lamb in sight, sasaksakin na niya si Isaac. That's why the word of Abraham was a sense of urgency. Maybe his muscles was twitching and was about to thrust it when the angel shouted. Because in the heart of Abraham, he said, if there is no lamb, let it be. He will still die with my hands. Remember what Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said? Yeah, throw us in the furnace. God will protect us. But even if He does not, it's okay. We will still worship and serve Him. Even if He does not. Here's same. He said, Son, God will provide a lamb. But even if He does not, I will still obey Him. Why? Because Abraham believed that if God does not provide a lamb, He would raise up Isaac from the dead. Because why? He believed that he did not believe that God will raise up Isaac from the dead for that sake alone. He believed that God is a promise keeper. That all nations will be blessed through him, through Isaac. And how can that be if Isaac is dead? Therefore, yes, I will kill Isaac, but God will keep His promise. Therefore, He will raise Isaac from the dead. I will still kill him. Go to Hebrews chapter 11. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 19 says, By faith Abraham, when he was tested, offered up Isaac. And he who had received the promise was offering up his only begotten son. It was he to whom it was said in Isaac, Your descendants shall be called. He believed in that promise. He considered that God is able to raise people even from the dead, from which He also received him back as a type. Abraham was willing to slaughter Isaac because he believed that God is faithful. He would keep His promise that in Isaac your descendants shall be called. And the angel said, Stop! Don't do it. In verse 12 it says, Do not stretch out your hand against the lad, and do nothing to him, for now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. Abraham was willing to give up all. He was willing to give up all just to become obedient to God. How good is that? He was willing to give up his dreams. He was willing to give up his hope. He was willing to give up his comfort, his aspiration, and his love for what? to be obedient to God. Why? Because he values God above all else. His service and faith to God was not motivated by personal gain, which a lot of Christians nowadays are inclined to. They serve God for personal gains. And this test allows Abraham to show and demonstrate to himself, to Isaac, and to the whole world that he loved God, and his motivation in obeying God is God himself. God alone motivated his faith. He was willing to give up all, to stand alone, to give up his love, to give up his hope, just to be obedient. Are we willing? Or are we cursing? Lord, why are you not giving me the benefits of my obedience? And God asks, oh, do you just love me because of the seeming blessings you might and want to receive from me? Or just do you simply love me because I've saved you? Yes, Lord, but I really want. I really want that benefits. That keeps me going, God. Now I know that you fear God. Now I know that you love God. Alam mo, there's one thing, there's a cognitive knowledge and there's experiential knowledge. A lot of us, parents, we can say that, yes, my children, they love me. They care for me. Right? And we know that. My spouse, my relatives, they love me. They care for me. Yes, we know that. That's cognitive knowledge. But we want experiential knowledge. I want my son to show that love. I want them to serve me. I want them to write love letters to me. I want them to serve me, to keep me company, to do whatever, to express that love. Cognitive knowledge is one thing, experiential knowledge is another thing. Right? It's one thing to say, honey, I love you, which is good, or honey naman, you know I love you, right? Yes. But it's another thing for me to start giving her roses, dining her out, keeping her company, doing her whatever she wants me to do. It's another thing. Now I know that you fear God. Now I know that you're not in this relationship for what you will get out of it. Now I know what motivates you, that your motivation is pure. Is our motivation pure? Again, how valuable is your God to you? If He has nothing to give anymore, will you still serve Him? If it's nothing to offer anymore, sabi nga nila, di ba? A guy that's rich has many friends. But a poor guy has none. Why? Walang benefit eh. If there's nothing to gain anymore from God, will you still continue to serve Him? Will you still continue to be faithful to Him and His calling? Verse 13, that Abraham raised his eyes and looked, and behold behind him a ram caught in the thicket by the horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up for burnt offerings in the place of his son. Abraham called the name of the place, the Lord will provide. As it is said to this day, in the mount of the Lord it will be provided. The word provide there comes from the word to see. The Lord will see. What do you mean by that? Well, it's meant to mean, it's like telling me, Bobby, can you do this? And my reply is, yes, I will see to it that it is done. What that means is, I will ensure that it will be done. I will check I will cross all the T's and dot all the I's to ensure that this project will come to completion. It does not, it implies a supervisory role rather than an active role. So, when God said that God will provide, it means that He will oversee to ensure that that thing will be provided. Every detail, every scenario is covered. 2 Timothy 2:13 says, if we are faithless, He will remain faithful. He will see to it that things will be done. 2 Timothy 2:13. If we are faithless, He will remain faithful. Ganda naman mo. Because we know we are faithless. We know we will always fall. Yet His faithfulness is not dependent on our faithfulness. Verse 15 to 18. To the angel of the Lord called to Abraham a second time from heaven and said, by myself I have sworn, declares the Lord, because you have done these things and have not withheld your son, your only son. Indeed, I will greatly bless you, and I will greatly multiply your seed as the stars of the heavens and as the sand which is on the seashore. And your seed shall possess the gates of their enemies. In your seed, all nations of the earth shall be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. Again, this was the last scene with Abraham. God now reaffirms, takes an oath to Himself, validating what He said from the start in Genesis chapter 2, that He will bless Abraham. In fact, the word being there is, I will truly, truly bless you. Mark my word, all that I have said that I will do to you will certainly happen. Your descendants will be prosperous. You will inherit the land, and all nations will be blessed by you. Last verse, verse 19. So Abraham returned to his young men, and they arose and went together to Beersheba. And Abraham lived at Beersheba. The question really is not, are you willing to give up your child? You know, people that said, oh, will God tell me to give up my child also? That's not the point here. The point here really is, will you serve God if there's nothing to gain? What really motivates you in serving God? Is He valuable to you? Is He a valuable God? Would you give God a chance if there was nothing in it for us? Would you give your lives to God? Will you continually be faithful to Him? What motivates you? How valuable is God to you? And the answer to this is, He is valuable. Why? For He is faithful to the very end. My desire is for us to check our hearts and confess to Him if we have served Him not because of who He is, but based on what we can get from Him. That all this time we've been manipulating Him. When in reality, we should be the one that He should be manipulating. We should be the one changing. And here, no wonder Abraham's called the father of our faith because he was willing to serve God even if all his hopes and aspirations in life was taken away from him. He was willing to obey God no matter what the cost, no matter what the price is. We have a worthy God. And I pray that you are able to say that God is valuable to me, that I will obey Him today. If there's anything that God wants you to do, if there's any conviction that God wants you to address, my question is He valuable enough to you that for you to obey His promise? My desire is I hope you are all ready to give up all in order just to be obedient to Him. Thus says the Lord.